Hello everyone, welcome to this last session of module 2 on goods and service tax filings. So today we will see the amendments and the cancellation of GST registration. Let us quickly recap what we learned in our previous session. So in our previous session we learned about the registration process and we took a tour of the GST portal and learned about the registration process with a live example. So let's proceed with today's topic. Why amendments may be needed? There are certain reasons due to which amendments in the current registration must be made so as to stay consistent with the laws and rules governing the GST. So the reasons can be if there is any change in the business name. So your registration must be in the name of your business, and if any change in the business name takes place, then registration must be amended and new name must be added to the registration certificate. Next is if there is any change in address of the business. So if the address of the business has been changed or the office has been shifted to another location, then amendments is required to be filed. Amendment can be in the form of addition to a existing place of business or amendments in the current place of business. For example, if a warehousing company which takes on lease warehouses and further uses it for its business purpose, any increase in the number of warehouses must be intimated to the GST department, and the warehouse added every time must be added as an additional place of business in the existing registration. Next is if there is any addition or removal of partners or directors. So change in the management or partner or director or the authorized signatory must be intimated to the GST department, and hence any change in the partners or directors must be intimated and updated in the existing registration. If there is any change in contact details, for example email ID or phone number, if these details have been changed, then GST registration need to be amended. And the last one is if there is any change in the authorized signatory. So if a business has appointed an authorized signatory and if there is any change in such authorized signatory, then GST amendment must be done. Types of amendments: core field amendment and non-core field amendments. Core field amendments require approval of the officer. For example, legal name or change in address require approval of the officer, whereas non-core field amendments doesn't require any approval. It is system approved. For example, email and phone number are automatically approved upon the filing of amendment application in the non-core fields. In case of change of PAN or state, registration can't be amended and the existing registration need to be cancelled and new registration has to be taken. It means if a PAN on which GST registration has been taken changes, then it implies change in constitution, or in case of proprietorship it implies change in proprietor. Hence in such case existing registration cannot be amended to amend the PAN, rather it has to be cancelled and a fresh registration needs to be taken. Similarly, in case of change in state also, existing registration cannot be amended, rather a fresh registration has to be obtained. So this is the screenshot. Here we can see under the services head we have registration, and under registration we have this amendment link, amendment of registration non-core field and amendment of registration core fields. So using these two options we can apply for amendments. How to amend GST registration? To amend the GST registration, we need to log into the GST portal, that is www.gst.gov.in. Upon the login, we have to navigate to the services tab, then to the registration tab, and under the registration tab we have the option of amendment to the core field or amendment to the non-core field. Once we have selected the core field or non-core field amendment, we then have to update the relevant fields. Once the data has been filled up, we need to upload the documents. These are the same documents that are required at the time of registration of GST. For example, at the time of registration, for the registered business place proof, we need documents like no objection certificate or rent agreement or lease agreement along with utility bills. Same, these documents are required at the time of amendment also. Again, in case of authorized signatory, at the time of registration, we need a board resolution or an authority letter. Same, an authorization letter or a board resolution is required at the time of amendment also. Once all the details have been filled up and documents have been uploaded, then again the amendment application must be submitted via EVC or digital signature certificate. Documents for amendments. So different set of documents are required for amendments in different fields of registration. For example, ROC certificate is required in case of name change, rent agreement or lease agreement or no objection certificate along with utility bills are required in case of address change. Then a board resolution or a letter of authority is required in case of authorized signatory change, and ID proof of new directors is required in case of change in or appointment of new director. Timeline and approval. For core amendments, the officer must respond within 15 working days. That is, the officer must either approve the application within 15 days or if he finds any deficiency in the information furnished or the documents uploaded, he can issue a notice and the taxpayer must respond to the notice within 7 days. Non-core fields are auto-updated upon the submission of application form. When to consider for cancellation of registration? So registration cancellation can be voluntary or it can be suo motu by the department, that is on its own. Circumstances for voluntary cancellation: business discontinued, business transferred, amalgamated, merged, demerged, disposed, or death of partners. In these scenarios, voluntary cancellation can be applied for. Also, change in constitution of business. Say, previously I was working under a partnership setup, but now onwards I wish to carry on my business under a incorporated company setup. So I have to surrender my registration pertaining to partnership business and obtain fresh registration for my company. Then no longer liable to register under section 22 or section 24. So in my previous year, if the turnover hasn't exceeded the threshold limit, I can opt out from the registration and apply for cancellation. Similarly, in case previously I was dealing both in taxable and exempt goods, but now I am dealing only in exempted goods for which registration is not mandatory, then I can opt to surrender my registration. Then opt out of voluntary registration. So I have taken the registration voluntarily, that is my turnover didn't exceed the threshold limit and I have opted for the registration, but now onwards I don't require the registration, so I can opt out of voluntary registration. So next are the circumstances for suo motu cancellation by the department, that is the department can cancel the registration on its own. When the registrations obtained by means of fraud, willful misstatement or suppression of facts. For example, if an SSE has obtained the registration by furnishing false documents or false information in the registration form. Next, voluntary registered person not commence business within 6 months from registration. So a taxpayer who got enrolled under GST voluntarily but did not commence his business within 6 months from the date of registration, the department may suo motu cancel his registration. Then non-filing of returns by composition supplier beyond 3 months from the due date. So the composition supplier are required to furnish their return quarterly, and if it fails to submit its quarterly return beyond 3 months from the due date, then the department may suo motu cancel the registration. Next, if contravene following provisions, like doesn't conduct the business from registered place, the SSC is conducting his business from some other place which has not been added as additional place of business in his registration, then the department can suo motu cancel his registration. Then comes violating provision of anti-profiteering. It means that the seller must pass on the benefits of reduced tax rate or benefits of input tax credit to the ultimate consumer. If any provisions related to anti-profiting is violated, then the department may cancel the registration suo motu. Next is doesn't provide bank details within time. So upon the registration, bank details must be updated to the registration within 30 days. If this 30 days is lapsed, then the department may cancel the registration suo motu. Next, issue of invoice or bill without supply of goods or services. That means bogus invoices are being issued by the taxpayer without actual supply of goods or service, then the department can suo motu cancel the registration. Next is avail ITC in violation of the Act. So there are specific provisions relating to availment of input tax credit. Contravention to these provisions may lead to cancellation of registration. Then monthly return filers fail to file return for continuous 6 months. If monthly return filers who fails to file return for continuous period of 6 months are also liable for getting their registrations cancelled suo motu by the department. Then quarterly return filers fail to file return for a continuous period of 2 tax period. That is, in case those who have opted for quarterly filing of return fails to file his return of GST for next 2 quarters, then the registration may get cancelled by the department. Then comes violation of rule 88, that is 99% liability to be paid through input tax credit. This rule specifies that if the GST liability for a particular month is in excess of rupees 50 lakhs, then 1% of such GST must be paid in cash, that is without utilizing input tax credit. So if this provision is violated, then also GST registration can be cancelled by the department. So who can apply for cancellation? Taxpayers can voluntarily apply for cancellation of registration. Then GST officer can suo motu cancel the registration, and legal heirs in case of death of proprietor or partner can apply for cancellation of the registration. How to cancel GST registration? To cancel the registration, we need to log into the GST portal, that is www.gst.gov.in, and navigate to the services tab. Under the services tab, we have registration option, and under this option we will find application for cancellation of registration. So here is the screenshot. Once we have selected the application for cancellation of registration option, we need to provide a reason for cancellation of registration, the effective date of cancellation of registration, and the stock details. The stock details are required. In case stock is lying with the business, then the input tax credit held in the stock needs to be reversed. Then we have to upload the supporting documents and submit the application with EBC or digital signature certificate. Revocation of cancellation. So once our registration has been cancelled, we can still file a revocation application for cancellation of registration within 30 days from the date of approval of application for cancellation of registration. It can be 90 days if it is filed along with a condonation. So once the revocation application is filed, and if the officer is satisfied, he can revoke the cancellation, or else if he finds certain deficiencies in the information or the documents, he can issue a 7-day show cause notice, and he has to dispose the application within 30 days from the receipt of the reply against the show cause notice. Then key points to remember: file your return on time, that is, the return must be filed within the due dates. Keep documents updated. Your registration profile must be updated all the time. Track amendment and cancellation status. The profile must be regularly visited, and the amendment and cancellation status must be tracked from time to time. Then avoid late or incorrect filings. Late or incorrect filings lead to interest along with penalties and also cancellation of registration. So we must avoid it. Common mistakes and tips. Common mistakes are incorrect PAN or expired documents, or incorrect documents or incorrect format of documents, then PAN mismatch, then missed notices from GST portal. Generally, the notices are uploaded on the GST portal, and we must keep on tracking the notices section. Use correct file format and size. Yes, the correct file format and size is very important, as this may lead to rejection of documents and subsequent cancellation of registration. Save ARN receipts. The ARN receipts must be saved for future references. So to conclude, keep your GST profile updated all the time. If you have applied for any modification or amendment in your registration, either core or non-core field, keep a track of your application status, because if the department did not approve the application and you did not notice it, it may lead to legal consequences. Cancel registration when business closes or is transferred. You must cancel your registration for avoiding any unauthorized access to your GST registration upon the closure of business. Reactivate registration via revocation if needed. So that's it for this session. Thank you.